Jamie with Guitarist magazine, and today we've got a really cool amp to show you, which is Marshall's JTM Studio. Now this follows on in the studio range of amps that Marshall has made, and they've variously done things like they're reimagined the plexis and things like that. And this is going back a bit further in Marshall's catalogue to the earliest amps that Marshall made, really, the JTM 45. So, as you'll see, the styling is a little bit different from the Marshall you may know already, including this very old school logo here, sort of Art Deco logo, which is known as a coffin logo because the original badges that were put on Marshall JTM 45s were by a funeral kind of, casket making company that did these things for coffins and things like that. So they turned out these badges for Marshall at one stage. So that's why this has got this very old style logo and this nice two-tone livery here. But as with the other amps from the studio range, the amp is extensively updated. So it looks old, but it's got some modern conveniences to it. So without further ado, let's walk you through some of the features. So part of the idea behind the studio range is to make the power a bit more accessible than it was on the old 45 and 100 watt heads that followed. So this is 20 watts. It's powered by a duo of 5881 valves, and in case you're wondering what a 5881 does, it's kind of like a ruggedized 6L6. So again, it's coming from that Fender Bassman lineage that Marshall kind of tweaked and made their own, and that's where the JTM 45 came from. On the front panel here, as well as the sort of vintage looking dials and things like that, you've got a presence control, bass, middle, treble, and then the 2 channel volume controls here. So you've got 2 inputs well, 4 inputs, but there's two channels effectively. One's a high treble and one is a normal. Most people find the high treble a bit bright. Most people find the normal a little bit too dull. And what you do is you put a jumper lead between the redundant inputs on both channels, and it gives you the best of both worlds. And you use these dials to blend in your favoured combination of warmth and bite. So that's just what we've done here. It's what most people do with Marshalls of this era. What you don't get on here is a reverb, so that's it is a kind of straight up rock and roll machine, but you do get some other things which you wouldn't have done back in the day. You get a series effects loop, which is defeatable with a switch, and you also get a speaker emulated DI output. One thing worth noting though, there's no dummy load, so unlike other amps where you plug in the DI and it defeats the puts a dummy load in, you will need to keep the speaker cabinet connected for this. Speaking of which, I've got this nice vertical format 2x12 speaker cabinet here that matches it. Looks very nice, and it's quite a nice sort of, you could have this in your house. It's not going to dominate like a 4x12, and it's built on a plywood kind of chassis, if you like. So it's good and solid. No MDF here. It's a really proper Marshall. So anyway, without further ado, let's have a little look at some of the sounds. I'm just going to walk through a few little settings and things like that. We won't go into too much. I might stand on an overdrive pedal so you can hear how it sounds with that, but let's have a little walk through the controls. So that's just a nice Marshall-y clean tone, quite square, quite... If we turn up the presence control a little bit further, a lot of people use this to dial in the sound of the amp to suit the room. Get a little bit more brightness there if we turn it all the way down. A little bit less lively, a little bit flatter, a little bit less edge to it. So here's the bass control. Some people swear by turning this right up on Marshall amps. Other people have a different formula for getting the best out of them. Like a lot of Marshall amps, there's plenty abundant bass push here from the closed back cab. We turn it down a little bit, you can get slightly more silvery sort of cleans out of it. Let's turn the mid up here. A slightly more subtle effect of that, but again, just a bit more teeth to it. And then with the treble wound all the way up, got a rather brighter tone. And Marshall amps tend not to lack brightness at the best of times. I'm going to turn on the drive here. Just going to turn that treble down to 12 o'clock again, and we'll have a little listen to how it sounds with overdrive. So it's that classic rock sound. There's not a whole bunch of gain on here in and of itself. You can get some drive out of it if you dime it, but it's never going to be a high gain amp. It's not what it's for. So now if we turn our attention to the high treble and normal channels, as I mentioned, we use them as this kind of blend control. So that's with the overdrive pedal off now. If I turn this high treble volume up, so we can actually hear that that's contributing a bit of extra drive as well as some teeth there. If I turn that down to sort of around the middle and then the normal channel up again, we'll probably get drive but more warmth. Which is really nice actually. Imagine you had a really bright telly or something, you might want to go that way. And if you had, sort of dullish sounding Les Paul or something like that, you would probably lean on the high treble channel a bit more. It's a really nice way to actually get your EQ. You could almost leave this kind of set how you broadly liked it and then fine tune it with that. And really that's the extent of the amp, except for one extra thing, which is unlike the amps of old, you've got a full power, so a full 20 watts setting, which we're in now. There's also a low power setting, which takes it down to 5 watts. So we'll just have a little listen to that. Let's give it a bit more welly on the volume. And I think that's quite nice. I mean, often when you go to these low power modes, you do get a little reduction in the juiciness of the tone or something that feels a little bit lacking. I would say this is actually a pretty good replication of the full power sound. So there we have it, the Marshall JTM Studio, a very handy, practically powered addition to this range, and it looks a treat as well. It's just over $1,000 for the head, so get happy. It's a really nice new addition to that line by Marshall.